Welcome to Podcast Like It's the 2000s, the podcast where we talk about the films of the aughts here from our perch in 2026. I'm one of your hosts, Phil Iscove.
I'm your other host, Emily St. James, and a fun fact about me is that I am the world's most special girl, and if you give me special things, I will only do good things with them.
Really?
And that's important to know, that I should not be hindered or held back in any way.
If you could have a superpower, Emily, what would it be?
Shape-shifting, trans answer, shape-shifting.
Okay, fair enough. Fine.
Yeah.
Fair.
Or invisibility. That'd be fun.
That'd be fun too.
Yeah.
So with us today to continue our miniseries on the Pixar films of the 2000s is Libby Hill. We're talking The Incredibles today, which rumor has it is your favorite Pixar film, Libby. Is that true?
You know, I thought so, and then I rewatched The Incredibles, and now I'm not.
Oh no. 2026 ruined The Incredibles for Libby.
Yeah, no, I don't know what my favorite Pixar is anymore.
Okay.
I will say,
Okay.
like, this had been my easy answer. Like, oh, The Incredibles.
Yeah.
I do have, in retrospect, I have very strong feelings about Inside Out.
I love Inside Out too. For what
I related very intensely to Riley in that film.
Really?
Yeah, believe it or not.
I mean,
the first time I saw it, there is this picture of her. She has just her little gap teeth and her little like rainbow striped sweater. And like I did a side by side of like a screen cap of that and like a literal picture of myself when I was that age. And it was like identical, except I had a bad perm because it was the early 90s. But yeah.
Those were the days.
Late 80s.
Those were the days.
Early 90s.
I think that movie's pretty good.
I really like Inside Out. I mean, I'll say this. I'm very excited to talk about this movie because I think that this movie is complicated and interesting and a more fraught film than I remembered it.
It is.
And now you're a parent.
Yeah,
you're a mother now, so I imagine that plays into this too.
It hits a little different now. It also hits a little, it hits a little different now that I'm older because
Sure.
I did go through an unfortunate Ayn Rand period when I was a high schooler. So when this came out 400 years ago and I was still young, I was very like, why doesn't everyone know how special I am and respect it, and why is everyone trying to dim my light? Because I am the most special girl. Is that is what my wife doesn't realize.
Well, what's interesting, I mean, you are obviously.
This is why we write together. I like to dim your shine a little bit. I like to drag you back down to earth just slightly.
But this came up a little bit when we talked The Iron Giant many moons ago on podcasts like it was 1999, and the sort of the Brad Bird Randian stuff is very real. Like it's
sorry,
I think that is simultaneously yes, true, but also like a bit overstated. And what I found interesting revisiting this film is, yes, a lot of the implications of its philosophy are horrifying, and we're living through them to some extent.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, literally all of the people who are making my life awful just think like they don't think they're Mr. Incredible. They think they're Syndrome. It's one of the like weird things about this movie is like it's right in ways that both trouble me and make me be like, well, this is like the only movie that's ever understood anything, Well,
it is. I mean, this movie is obviously an amalgamation of a bunch of sources, right? Like it's pulling from a bunch of different things. It's pulling a little bit from Watchmen, it's pulling a little from Fantastic Four, obviously, as we just said, sort of some Randian ideas. It's why when Brad Bird talks about this film and the second film in interviews, he's not even cagey. He's just like, we pull from everyone, and I was inspired by a bunch of different things, and like don't think too hard about it.
I do want to say, like, watching the first half of this, I had a very similar reaction to Libby of like, oh, can I just not get on board with this anymore? And then you get to the second half and it's so perfectly constructed that you just kind of have to give into it,
Yes, absolutely. And I think, it's about to say we talk a lot about American exceptionalism, except
do we?
We don't.
Phil does all the fucking time.
I do all the time.
You hear a lot about it. There is just something about the time we are living in that when you sit down and it is very the first half of the film and intentionally so is very like, well, back in the good old days when we did this and that and people were good and people were bad and we let the good guys be good guys. Like there is just some I think I called to it's some like Tim Allen talking point like very like, oh, we give everyone a trophy and like, oh, it's not a graduation to go from 4th grade to 5th grade. And it's just like, it's, there is just something not untrue, but like, it's just a throwback to something I don't need to be thrown back to. Like it's just, and
100%.
it's not, I forgot this was a Brad Bird film. Like I forgot, it's not like I went into this thinking of like, right, Brad Bird, Randian. I was just like, this was something like we sit down to watch, and I was just like very much struck by it. I was like, oh right, like that is, that
it's
is
hard to get away. Yeah,
where we're entering this world. And it did rock me back a little bit, and I was like, it made it harder to connect with the material this time. But I agree with what Emily's saying about like the back half.
I will say too that and this sort of piggybacks on what you're saying, Libby, of like it has this retrofuturism component to it, right? So it has this the sort of the aesthetics of like a Jetsons, if you will, sort of, right? Which is this kind of idyllic 50s-esque kind of thing, which I understand the draws to that, right? From a genre perspective and aesthetically and all that sort of stuff. It's when you get into the sociological kind of social issue stuff where you're like, I don't love that you're marrying these things together.
There's some coding stuff that is weird that I don't even necessarily think is intentional, but like leaves me coming away with it like, oh, this is we're talking about the good old days, and like, yes, that's what Mr. Incredible's saying, but also when you are coding it like the 50s, 60s, like things like that, it is hard
like,
to
things
divorce
were so
it
much
from
better back then, and you're like,
it is very difficult to again, especially in our modern timeline of like, remember when the world was better when everyone was white, or everyone we cared to see was white. It's hard.
Frozone representation in this film.
Still my favorite. Absolutely, still my favorite.
Frozone great, but barely in this. I really
he's much
forgot
more in the
how
sequel.
little
Yeah.
Yes.
Here's the thing about the sequel. Let me say this about the sequel before we move on. I said, Emily, what was Incredibles 2 about? She said, I don't know. I think it focused more on Elastigirl. And I was like, yeah, that sounds right. And then I went and I read the synopsis for Incredibles 2. And I tell you, I swear to God, Phil, I still couldn't tell you what Incredibles 2 was about. It has made no imprint on me whatsoever.
The core idea of the role reversal of now Mr. Incredible's at home and Elastigirl is doing superhero stuff is really smart and really fun. And then when it comes time to do the like actual supervillain plot, it falters a bit. I really like that movie, but it's
I've tried to rewatch Incredibles 2 several times, and the only things that have stuck with me from that movie are the raccoon versus Jack sequence, which is a standout, just because it's insane and just really funny. And then I remember in the theaters being really sort of blown away visually by there's like a strobe light component to it, of like how they rewire people's brains or something like that through strobe lighting. If again, forgive me if I'm getting this wrong, but like I remember just visually being like, this is really arresting the way that they're doing this. But those are kind of the only two things.
Incredibles 1, like other Brad Bird films, has an element of feeling a little bit like a Facebook post purportedly written by the host of Dirty Jobs that like goes viral, and everyone's like, oh, this is about how the kids today won't get their hands dirty. Also, this time around, I was trying to think of who's similar to Brad Bird, and the answer is Aaron Sorkin. Aaron Sorkin and Brad Bird are playing in the same field, but I like Brad Bird a lot more because he's fucking honest about it. He's like, this is the logical end result of my philosophy. And he always includes a leavening influence. In this film, it's that everyone in the family has a different relationship to this central idea. There are plenty of scenes that directly contradict it. And the core idea is like, we are stronger together than apart, which is the opposite of Rand. So like, it's like a really like, he's aware of the limitations of his own philosophy, even if he thinks it's a smart philosophy, in a way that like Sorkin or that Facebook post would not be too many times.
I agree with that. I mean, Brad Bird is confident, more, I would say more confident in his beliefs, and doesn't care if he's loved in the same way that Aaron Sorkin does. Aaron Sorkin needs you to love him. And Brad Bird's like, I don't give a shit. Like, it doesn't matter to me if you love me or not.
Yeah, obviously we're going to talk Ratatouille in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And Ratatouille to me is like a much stronger thesis of like what Brad Bird is like. I prefer Incredibles. I think it's probably still my favorite Pixar. It's a toss up between this and Wall-E. I think they're both wonderful, but Ratatouille is the movie that makes me be like, okay, Brad Bird, like whatever his politics are, however complicated they are, fundamentally, I think has like a heart that like wants people to be okay in a way that like Ayn Rand did not, you know? So
I would argue that I actually feel like Ratatouille feels like more of a Disney movie than this does.
Sure.
And by that I mean, when I say Disney, I mean sort of like classic Disney, sort of what have you, of like talking animals, and like it has all, you know what I mean, like it's got, and that sort of that really big heart. Not that this movie doesn't have a big heart, it does, and it made me cry several times, but there's a sort of a visceral kind of the world is coming to get you component to this movie that really kind of, I was really kind of taken aback by this time around. And I imagine as parents, maybe even more so for you guys. I mean, I think about the scene where Elastigirl or Helen says to her kids, like, they will kill you. That and it's a bracing moment. The moment when she's in the plane and she's calling down to saying like, there are kids on this plane. Like, it's stuff that, it's why this got a PG rating. It was not a G as previous Pixar films and most Pixar films are, because this movie has children in danger. Children's lives are threatened in a way that is bracing.
Yeah, we've tried to show our kid the other Pixar movies, and we did not show her this one.
Yeah,
or even try. We tried to do Cars, and she was so bored, and I was like, "Yes, we won."
Fucking line. I just watched that. Jesus Christ, is that movie boring? And the longest Pixar movie still to date.
It's interesting.
That's because the opening scene is like 40 minutes
4
long.
hours.
Like, what is happening? Who gives a shit? Wouldn't even watch an actual car race this long. Like,
Ciao, indeed.
It was awful. Margot
I feel
was
like
it's
most
done
car
now?
races are
like,
longer than that.
You know it.
It's an interminable movie, but
it is interesting that you note that Ratatouille feels more like a Disney movie, and this feels, I guess, more like a Marvel movie. This feels like the best,
or a Pixar movie, quite frankly.
The best Fantastic Four movie nobody ever made. But yeah, it does feel Pixar heavy. But I mean, famously, Walt Disney like walked into his animators after they stopped being able to make Oswald the Lucky Rabbit shorts, and he was like, "It's got to be a fucking rat who's a chef." And his animators were like, "Not that," and they talked him down to a mouse who drives a boat, and history was made. But like that idea just like hung in the ether.
It's a rat who cooks.
The fucking rat chef.
Let him cook. It's this movie, especially since we recently had a Fantastic Four movie that came out.
That was boring. That was
so boring. So boring. Talk about like a complete lack of chemistry with all the leads. It was like they were all in different movies. I mean, just brutal. But this movie, when it came out, was sort of everyone being like, well, this is the best Fantastic Four. We're gonna, you know what I mean? Like, you really can't do better than this. And they've proven that time and time again.
This is the thing that nobody else really has figured out outside of James Gunn. James Gunn sometimes gets there. Arguably he did in a couple of the Guardians movies and Superman. all of the heroes have different powers, but they're cleanly delineated and they stack. So like the characters can, Elastigirl can stretch out to like throw dash, and then he can run fast across, and like all of these things work together in a way that makes them stronger as a unit. And they're literally just the Fantastic Four powers. They're mixed slightly among who has what, but it's like, yeah, these are the powers of the Fantastic Four, and every Fantastic Four movie cannot figure out Stretch Man, Invisible Lady, Big Rock Guy, and Fireman, and finding a way to make them work together, And like this movie does it in 7 different.
Big Rock Guy and Fireman. Original. I mean, these are the original names.
Fireboy.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Fireboy. You're not wrong. It is. You think it's just kind of storytelling 101 to have these gifts and talents or powers speak to each other, and yet it's amazing how rare it happens.
I think what it is in this movie, the powers are metaphors for the characters' inner struggles in a way that makes every time they use their powers speak on 2 or 3 different levels. And most superhero cinema doesn't really try to do that for obvious reasons. It's A, it's very hard to do, and B, it is you get these special effects sequences done so far ahead of time, you kind of haven't figured out a lot of the character beats. But yeah, like that movie, Thunderbolts, which I really liked, is trying to do some of this, but it kind of just inevitably falls into, and then there's a superhero battle, and this movie just like every action sequence is a character sequence in a way that is so smart.
Yeah, it is interesting how few lessons were taken from this movie by comic book movies, because I think they resent this movie for having ripped off all the comics that it did. Like, I think that there's this like, I don't know if you were to ask comic book people how they feel about this movie, how they would feel about it. Like they might love it. I don't know, but it is sort of, it's getting to have its cake and eat it too. And I think if I was working in the comic book world, I would be perhaps slightly annoyed that this movie got away with what it got away with, if that makes sense.
I've always gotten the impression that comics people like it, but I obviously don't know that many comics people.
Sure.
And they all tend to be like indie comics people who are not working within the big superheroes anyway. Yeah. I don't know. Well, Libby, you're a comic book nerd. What do you think?
Me?
Libby. She's not one at all.
Like, Mer?
I don't know.
I'm going to give a little bit of context on The Incredibles for our listeners. In this lauded Pixar animated film, married superheroes Mr. Incredible, played by Craig T. Nelson, and Elastigirl, played by Holly Hunter, are forced to assume mundane lives as Bob and Helen Parr after all superpowered activities have been banned by the government. While Mr. Incredible loves his wife and kids, he longs to return to a life of adventure, and he gets a chance when summoned to an island to battle an out-of-control robot. Soon, Mr. Incredible is in trouble, and it's up to his family to save him. The Incredibles opened on November 5th, 2004, against The Grudge, Ray, Saw, Alfie, Shall We Dance, and Shark Tale. It will go on to make $631 million on a $120 million budget. It has a 90 score from critics on Metacritic and an 8.7 from audiences, and it has a 4.1 average score on Letterboxd. Premiere Magazine released a cross-section of all the top critics in America, and The Incredibles placed at number 3, whereas review aggregator Rotten Tomatoes cross-referenced reviews suggested this was the highest-rated film of the year. With a 97% on Rotten Tomatoes as of 2023, this is the best-reviewed superhero movie ever, tied with Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Take that for what it's worth.
Why not?
The Incredibles led the 77th Academy Award season with 4 nominations, including Best Original Screenplay, which was a first for Pixar at the time, I believe.
No, they got nominated for Finding Nemo and Toy Story. So
maybe it was that it received, because it also, it received 2 Oscars for Best Animated Feature and Sound Editing.
Yes, it's their first one to win more than one.
To win, that's what it was. Yeah, sorry. And Joe Morgenstern of the Wall Street Journal called The Incredibles the year's best picture in 2004. Roger Ebert gave the film 3.5 stars, said the Pixar studios, which cannot seem to take a wrong steps right again with The Incredibles, a superhero spoof that alternates breakneck action with satire of suburban sitcom life. After the Toy Story movies, A Bug's Life, Monsters, Inc., and Finding Nemo, here's another example of Pixar's mastery of popular animation. It's not quite as magical as Nemo. How many movies are? That may be because it's about human beings who have some connection, however tenuous, with reality. It loses that fantastical freedom of the fish fable. Brad Bird's previous film was The Iron Giant, about a misunderstood robot from outer space and the little boy who becomes his friend. It had a charm and delicacy that was unique in the genre, and The Incredibles 2 has special qualities, especially in the subtle ways it observes its gifted characters trying to dumb down and join the crowd.
It's just he's just penalizing this movie against Finding Nemo, because in Finding Nemo all the fish had giant boobs and he loved
Obviously
that.
he loves boobs. I don't know if you know this, Libby, but Roger Ebert, big boob guy. Read his review on Cool World. Loved a doodle with boobs, let me tell you. So yeah, I have been watching a lot of Holly Hunter movies because I am spoiler, going to be going on Screen Drafts to do a Holly Hunter draft.
I thought you were gonna like, oh, she's gonna be my mother-in-law, and I was like, interesting, Phil. What a way to tell us.
Holly Hunter joining the fam. I wish. No. So I've been watching a bunch of Holly Hunter stuff, and she fucking rules. Like, Holly Hunter kind of can do no wrong. She might be in less great movies, but she's always great. Like, and this voice performance, first of all, no one sounds like Holly Hunter. Like, I don't, even if you went to Georgia, I'm not sure you could find anyone that sounds like Holly Hunter. It's a perfect voice. It's so identifiable. It's so emotional. Like, in this movie, there are line deliveries. I mean, just as one of the myriad of things that made me cry about her performance in this film, at the end of the movie when she says, "That's my girl," like, it just fucking got me. I love her to death. She's the MVP of any movie she's in. What are your thoughts on Holly Hunter, guys?
I'm gonna let Libby go first because Libby is a Holly Hunter fan.
I fucking love Holly Hunter. Holly Hunter's perfect. Like, Broadcast News is one of my top 3 movies of all time. Like, she's everything. Like, you're right. Her voice her voice is great. We're not the first people to, but like, the emotion she's able to invoke, without seeing her face, and the fact that you know exactly what her face is doing.
Yes.
Anything. Like, she has such emotional clarity with her line deliveries that you don't need to see her. You don't need to. I'm convinced that if you were blind and heard Holly Hunter's voice, like, you would know exactly what she looks like, exactly what she's doing when she says it.
Yeah.
And it cuts just right. It cuts right through me.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think Emily turned to me while we were watching this and was like, it's not just that this is a film full of amazing vocal performances, but like, Holly Hunter's here giving the best, like, animated performance of all time. So it's like, what are you gonna do?
It's funny because, like, she's also really cool.
Oh yeah.
Like, there's some and like odd and idiosyncratic in her own way. You look at her filmography, and obviously she's got so many wonderful performances. And then you think about, like, The Piano, for instance, which is obviously an incredible performance, but also such an anomaly in her filmography. Like, she doesn't really do much period stuff, for what it's worth. And she's just so modern, and yet it makes total sense in The Piano. She's a truly sort of, like, she's just a force to be reckoned with, just a phenomenal actor.
She's wonderful in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, one of her few other
Yes.
period movies, but she definitely feels like she's doing an Outlander situation there, where she's been like transported back in time and like met George Clooney, and who wouldn't stay
Right.
in the past for 2000 George Clooney. I think it was wild to me. I think they pointed this out on Blank Check, and this is where I first thought about it. She did not make a live action movie between 2017 and 2025, and like, that is what she did, a lot of television. So it's clear that, like, it wasn't like she wasn't working. She hadn't, like, soft retired or anything. People just weren't casting her, and that's fucked up. I think that Congress should get off its ass and give us more Holly Hunter work.
Well, it's funny because, like, I rewatched Broadcast News actually 2 nights ago for the first time in quite some time. And I mean, perfect movie, no notes. But it's never not funny to cut into a scene of Holly Hunter just crying by herself.
Yeah.
It's just, it is. And to think that, I mean, obviously, I mean, maybe our listeners don't know this, but like Broadcast News, she was cast 3 days before they started shooting. It was supposed to be Deborah Winger. Deborah Winger was pregnant, couldn't do the role. 3 days, and she gives us one of the greatest performances. It's unreal how good she is in that movie. Yeah, I mean, it is interesting that she was basically the first choice for this role in The Incredibles. I mean, Brad Bird. And by the way, like, if you said to me, you know, it's such an original sound. Her voice is so original sounding, right? That how could you not want this person to be one of your voice actors? But she'd never done it before. She'd never been in an animated film before. I'd never sort of lent her voice to it. And I think that adds to the specialness of this. She's bringing something to this. She's bringing this kind of quality of it's so heartfelt, and she's giving it her all, when I think a lot of people, let's just say a lot of actors, kind of go through the motions when it comes to animation act, when it comes to voice acting. And sometimes it just isn't required. You don't need to do much, right? And I don't mean to say that like Albert Brooks isn't great in Finding Nemo. His voice is perfect, right? But he just has to say the words because he's Albert Brooks, if you understand kind of what I'm getting at. It's a little different when I feel like Holly Hunter is bringing 150% to this.
I think Craig T. Nelson is very good in this movie.
Also great.
But Holly Hunter saying, "That's my girl," makes you so emotional. And him saying, "That's my boy," you're like, he played coach. Like, exactly. They get the same moment at the end, and it does work in both cases. I'm not saying it doesn't work when it's Mr. Incredible, but she is on some god tier level of performance in this movie.
It is one of those things where, like, we are still living in a world where the Academy Awards refuses to recognize voice performances or motion capture performances, or really anything that isn't live action, to camera. And I understand that to some degree from a guild perspective. If I was in SAG, I'd be digging in my heels and saying, whatever. But I also think you're doing just such an enormous disservice to how wonderful these performances are, these voice performances, or an Andy Serkis performance. Like, it's crazy to think of overlooking or these Avatar performances, right? Where you're just like, listen, I get it. You guys don't like talking apes and you don't like Na'vi. That's fine, but like, you've got to recognize that there's a tremendous performance going on behind this.
Listen, Avatar 3, not my favorite Avatar. It was very good. I had a great time, but Zoe Saldana and Sigourney Weaver are so locked in those movies that I just like, it's absurd that like how much they're committing.
It's so committed.
And it is like voiceover performance. I think a lot about one of the others, if I were to make like my top 10 voice performances of all time list, which I'm not going to do because I hate doing shit like that. Like Lupita Nyong'o in The Wild Robot is like another
so good.
Just gutting performance. That is a similar thing where she's like giving an actual performance underneath this whole layer. And they are both movies about women realizing the degree to which motherhood does not define them and does define them. That tricky balance of, and what I think works in Incredibles is that Mr. Incredible is also going through that journey of like, who am I as a father versus who am I as a man? But like, it is such a ripe, I think it's such a ripe theme because so often like motherhood kind of like pushes you outside of yourself and like turns you into some other person, and like voice acting externalizes that in a really cool way. So I think that may be why I respond to this performance so much, and Lupita's in Wild Robot.
Absolutely, I totally agree. I mean,
that was the thing that I've always thought she's great in this movie, but that was the thing that hit me harder this time. Now that I am a mom, I was just like, oh my god, she's got it. She's doing it.
It's crazy. I mean, Wild Robot crushed me in theaters. I mean, I was just sobbing at Wild Robot in theaters.
I have never, like, that was one I think I had to take like,
are you fucking kidding
some
me
time. I think Emily, that was one of those Emily gets a little concerned crying Jags for me.
I
Fair. Yeah.
this is relitigating a thing that doesn't matter, but I loved Flow. I thought it was a great movie. I was a little mad it won. A little mad it won the Oscar. I felt
I think
like,
Wild Robot should have won. Yeah.
and it's like the thing about it is I don't want to say that because it's so cool that an independent animated feature people made on a PlayStation won, and it's not like it's a bad, it's a wonderful movie. I just like the Wild Robot, just like it just hits for me in some weird way.
Well, I think Wild Robot is just a crazily open-hearted movie where
Yeah.
it's just like, but this movie also, I think, so I had not watched The Incredibles in quite some time. I say it's probably been a decade, I would argue, something in that vicinity. And I was impressed, and also sort of the animation looks a little dated. This is a movie that notoriously was really pushing them to the brink as an animation studio technologically in its moment. The amount of locations. Sorry, go ahead.
I was thinking we watched Shrek 2 of last year, 2 years
Yeah.
ago now at this point,
Yeah.
for our very first miniseries
Yeah.
on this. And the humans in this, you can still watch them. Like you can
Yes.
still look at them.
Yes.
The humans in Shrek 2 are just flat
Nightmares.
and don't seem to move. Here, Brad Bird figured out the way that computer animation could do humans until I think Inside Out is kind of where they crack, or these look like actual people. But like Brad Bird figured out if you make them all look like caricatures of themselves,
Yes.
then you can get away with it a little bit. And so these characters still, you can still watch them, but they're definitely, the seams show in a way that some of this early Pixar doesn't as much.
This was pushing them very hard. What Brad Bird was attempting to do, and I would argue was successful in doing, was really sort of blowing out the world and making something so much bigger than they'd ever done before, right? Like if you look at Pixar, you've got toys obviously in Toy Story, you've got bugs in A Bug's Life, and you have Finding Nemo with fish, and it's like these are still relatively small worlds, right? Like there's only so many locations and whatnot, and they're beautifully rendered. But what he was expecting with this was something so much larger, and I think that there's a there's a quote here about how difficult it was to make. There was one scene in particular, which was the kitchen scene, the dining room scene, where they're all sort of and on the DVD commentary, Brad Bird recounted that one of the biggest problems with the dinner scene was that the animators had to extensively keep track of the food on the table, which was a nightmare. According to Bird, this even resulted in crew meetings in which everybody got into a shouting match. And at one point, set sequence supervisor Nigel Hardwing shouted, "Please, can we get back to the issue of the gravy?" And I just which is perfect. But I think that, I mean, this is the magic trick of making movies, period, right? Which is we don't want audiences to be thinking about how hard it is to make a movie. You want them to be taken on the ride and just taken in. But when you think about the minutia of things like this, it's great.
I think a lot about like Brad Bird and Genndy Tartakovsky were incredibly successful 2D animators who flipped over to making computer animated films. And their computer animated films have a lot of the qualities of 2D animation while appearing 3D, while being technically made in 3D animated space. And like that is a thing that you obviously know this is Brad Bird's first computer animated film, but you don't really sit there and think about it. But it's because he didn't know where the limits were in a way that like Andrew Stanton clearly did on Finding Nemo, because he keeps what's her face, Dora, he keeps her off screen as much as he possibly, not Dora, what's her name, the Darla. Yeah. Darla. He keeps her off screen because he knows that if you have to stare at her for too long, you're gonna like see into hell. Like it. But this movie, Brad Bird's like, no, we need to figure, if we're going to do this, we need to figure this out. And he wants to have these small scale domestic scenes because he knows it's not going to work without them, even if that's weirdly more complicated than when they have to fight a robot. There's just like, this movie is trying a lot of stuff that's very complicated for computer animation to do at the time in a way that I don't think people appreciated.
Yeah, and I think, one of the things that hit me as well, and we talked about this a little bit on our Monsters Inc. episode, the hair, right? Like Sully's hair in Monsters Inc. is just phenomenal. And the hair in this is phenomenal, right? Like you can see just the attention to detail. Where things get a little bit weird is actually kind of with the lip syncing a little bit. Like it's with the mouths and the way that the mouths move in comparison to the way that the people are like, it's just little details. It's just slightly hinky, if you know what I'm saying.
Libby pointed out a thing that terrified her about the appearance in this movie, which maybe you remember, but maybe you don't. I will.
Oh yeah, no, I do. Like the second they go in the water, it's like, oh my god, what is happening?
What's happening? They're so slimy and like,
oh god, we've learned nothing from Nemo. I don't.
yeah. And the hair does this weird thing when it's wet too.
It was like, yeah, it was like this weird, like they had gone into an invisible oil spill. It's like they were swimming in canola, and I was just like, no, like I understand why this is necessary, but no.
Do you guys remember you remember Crystal Pepsi, I'm assuming, back in the day?
Yeah.
And when SNL did
now, yes, I do.
Yes, they did Crystal Gravy. Do you remember this?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely what they were swimming in. That's absolutely
like they were swimming in Crystal.
Can we get back to the issue of the Crystal Gravy?
Well, it's clear that like it to me, I don't actually know this, but it seems clear to me that they swapped out the model of the usual hair for a wet hair model that was not nearly as good. So now everything's just kind of sleek, like they've been sprayed down before they like go out for the shoot.
They're like halfway between Selkie and human. It's like they're in the transformation stage.
Yes.
It's just not.
It's
not
gross.
Great.
They look like they've just been birthed, basically. Like they're swimming in afterbirth is kind of what it feels like. On that Libby's face
that should have been a plot point, that they all have to be born again. They have to be like, yeah.
I love that. So Hayao Miyazaki showed up at Pixar when they were making this, and Bird asked if the reels made any sense or if it just was "quote unquote" American nonsense. And Miyazaki replied through an interpreter, "I think it's a very adventurous thing you are trying to do in an American film," which I think is perfect.
Everybody wants Miyazaki to be their dad, and Miyazaki wants no children, including
no
his
children.
Own.
I am not interested in making you feel good about yourself.
His only good son is Totoro. That's the only person, the only one he'll ever love.
Yeah. There's a good book in there.
Yeah, no, 100%. The other thing that I thought was interesting, basically with most of the casting, they got who they wanted, but they had to convince Sarah Vowell. She did not want to do it. She was like, I don't think this is a good idea. I don't think you want me. And they took one of her episodes of This American Life and put it to Violet's character so that she could actually see what it would, which I think they do somewhat often. That's how they convinced Tom Hanks to do Woody. I think they took clips from one of his films and put it behind Woody. And I imagine that if there's no better way to convince an actor, right, than that, to hear your own words with the thing and be like, well, yeah, okay, this obviously works. Like, sure, I'll do it. Like, it's such a perfect way to convince an actor to do the thing.
Well, I think more than that, it's perfect for like Sarah Vowell, who isn't, and who's just like, you don't understand. We don't want you to do anything other.
Say the words.
Then say the words, like, because this is, that and thinking about that could go either way. Because I'm like, especially like, as I think there's plenty of people who hate listening to their own voice. So like, it's like, why would I want
why do this?
Anyone? Yeah. So
I love
so not only are you offering me a job I don't want based on my voice, which I probably hate, is now you want me to sit here and watch your pitch based on things I've already recorded that I hate. That you've clearly spent a lot of time listening to and writing to, which makes me uncomfortable.
If Pixar animated a clip from the show,
a lot of therapy that I've done that I need to do.
If Pixar animated a clip from this show, I think we would all just be horrified. Except then I'd be like, I'll play the Bumblebee. Sure, that sounds fun. Good,
sign me up
for me. Yeah, no, it's I like was thinking about the Elizabeth Pena is wonderful in this. Everyone, there's Jason Lee is wonderful in this. The kid who plays Dash, whose name escapes me, is wonderful in this.
Spencer Fox.
Bill, I want to know if you with this stacked cast, Incredibles ran the board at the Annie Awards, which are the
Yeah.
Animation Industry Awards. Who
Yeah.
won Best Voice Performance for this film?
I mean, it should be Holly Hunter.
She did not.
But who did it, Phil?
I think she was the other one nominated. There were 2 nominees, and she lost.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is my favorite.
I'm gonna say Samuel Jackson.
Brad Bird won Best Voice
Oh,
Performance
sure.
for playing Edna Mode. He won
Yeah.
4 Annies.
That's, I mean, this is one of those things where, because last week when we did Finding Nemo, we talked about how Andrew Stanton plays Crush,
Mhm.
and let's be real, he kills it. He's
great.
amazing.
Yeah.
And Brad is great as Edna Mode. Like I'm not. This is not me saying like he shouldn't have won or shouldn't, but I do love that. So they went to Lily Tomlin. That
Mhm.
was the one person they went to, and she turned it down because she heard Brad Bird's performance and said, "What do you need me for? You got it already." You know, like.
Yeah, no, it's she was right. Like Edna Mode, icon for a reason.
Icon.
I do feel a little like that's a kind of a cheesy win.
I agree.
But also at the same time, I'm like, well, you kind of can't deny.
Well,
You can't deny it.
Listen, if we want a cheesy win for this film for voice performance from someone who's not a professional voice actor, then I submit Brett Brooke Parker for Carrie, which is low-key my favorite.
Oh, she's so fucking funny.
It's so like it's
That's the babysitter?
Unbelievable. Yeah. Those escalating
The voicemails are
like
perfect.
Holy shit.
I don't know what's going on. Everything's fine.
Everything's
it's all fine
fine.
now.
Okay.
That is the thing that like I think Pixar, all animation studios do this. They have like people who are there, they just put them on to do a scratch track. Everyone hears the scratch track and is like perfect, and so they just keep that person in that. Like Wheezy the Penguin famously is Joe Ranft in Toy Story 2.
Yes.
But like it is a thing I think Pixar excels at even more than the other studios, as they often do, which is just like, oh, they have a random animator who can do a funny teenage babysitter voice. Let's just see what happens.
Right.
I did not know that role was voiced by a guy until this time.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
The thing that just occurred to me now about the Carrie voice and that's just a performance is how much it reminds me of Dr. Mel on The Pit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That is
in a live action remake.
Yeah. I think that when The Pit gets like 5-6 seasons deep, they're struggling to come up with a story. They should just reveal that Dr. Mel is Carrie from The Incredibles, and the whole thing takes place in the Incredibles universe.
So have you
That'll
watched
be when there's only
Friday?
one media company, because they've all bought each other.
I'm assuming since you guys are on script, you have not watched the premiere of The Pit,
No,
but Dr. Mel has a delivery of "I love boba" that is just tremendous, and I think you can love it. There is something about what the Pixar. So one of the things that, like with Spencer Fox, the kid who plays Dash, Brad Bird would have him run around the building, so he was always out of breath. And he wanted the character to feel that, which is a perfect thing. It reminds me of, a movie that Libby, we talked about on our 2009 many moons ago, but Fantastic Mr. Fox, and how all that recording was done, on the fly, in the sense of people are doing the things and they're recording them do the things. And I think that it's just a really kind of underrated thing when it comes to animated voice performances, that bringing that real life component into it, you feel it in the performance.
Well, it's also it also speaks to what you were saying earlier, Phil, about like trying to get SAG on board with these voice performances, because so oftentimes with the mocap, things like that, but when you have situations like that where there is absolutely a physical component to what's going on, just because you're not, even if you're not seeing it, is very it's very,
it's key to the whole thing.
Well, yeah, it's a very sorry, words are
it's all good, no worries.
It's a very narrow way of looking at performance.
Absolutely.
What I'm trying to say.
I mean I think that as we look down the barrel of AI,
Yeah, I mean, exactly.
we're really starting to sort of lose the forest for the trees in terms of a lot of this. So
I
Yeah,
really like.
it can be very, I imagine as an actor, it can be very, it does feel like, your face, your image, your
yeah,
visage
yeah,
is the whole of you.
totally,
You know, because
yeah,
I imagine because that's the thing you feel like you have the most control over, and
absolutely,
thus the existential threat of AI. But yeah,
I think
anyway.
yeah,
I think a lot about how like Zoe Saldana, who does play a lot of characters who are not her, who
hmm,
don't who are alien or whatever.
sure,
I think like to me her definitive role is Neytiri in a way that is just like, when she dies, that'll be like when she dies, is anyone going to remember she won her Oscar for Amelia Perez? Are they just going to be
No.
like, she probably won for an Avatar movie, right? Like it's such a it's such a weird way to like look at some of these performers who are so good at a thing that is not immediately obvious how you do it. Andy Serkis, obviously the other
Right.
obvious example, but like there are actors who do the mocap thing and just utterly fall flat. And I just feel like, yeah, I don't know. I feel like there is something about I talked to Mahershala Ali about this at one point, which is basically I was talking to him about how he was in True Detective season 3 and Green Book at the same time, both of which are movies about Mahershala Ali sitting in a car and talking to people.
But also both, and people don't always realize, have extensive mocap scenes.
Yeah, they have extensive, but like he was like when you take away some fundamental part of your toolkit, you have to start getting more creative as an actor. And so like he appreciated that challenge in both of those projects, but especially in Green Book, that literally is just a lot of it is just him sitting in a car, and he's wonderful in that movie, which is not a good movie, but he's great in it.
won an
and
Oscar for it.
and I do think that like sometimes when we think about what acting is award worthy acting, we don't think about that question of taking things away. So voice performances, mocap performance. Like if I were to add an Oscar category tomorrow, it would be some version of that. Since we now have casting, which was always the one that I wanted. So
I mean, it's interesting because it's like the I'm sure you both know Matthew Barney, the artist Matthew Barney,
mhm,
maybe.
mhm.
Mhm.
And just he was married to Bjork for many years. He's a sort of
Okay.
a very he believed in this idea of restraint, quite literally, doing the idea of like painting but tying your hands behind your back, right? Like the idea of a physical restraint and what that does to your art and how it makes you a better artist or a worse artist or what have you. Jack White was also very similar in terms of he would only use certain chord structures for certain albums to sort of box yourself in, and to your point, Emily, take certain tools away from you and force yourself to strengthen other muscles and use other muscles that you wouldn't use otherwise. I agree. I think that that's incredibly important. And I think it's so narrow minded, especially when it comes to acting, especially when it comes to the technological advancements that we have. When you look at what James Cameron is doing with these Avatar films, and, to disregard those performances, I think is at their own,
and, and to sort of
peril.
bring it back to The Incredibles, you can tell that Holly Hunter, and I think honestly Jason Lee, who I don't think achieves the same heights that she does, but is clearly playing a character and giving a performance. Like she is clearly being like, okay, I'm an actor. What can I do to
Sure.
pour as much of myself into this that she
Yeah.
clearly has like an emotional attachment to on some level that like, I hate that that is the sort of thing that goes overlooked so often. Not that like awards should be the thing we're all going for,
Of
but it
course.
is the
Well,
thing we should all be going for.
Yeah.
well, let me talk about what bugs me about that too, is because it's not like they're consistent. Like, so one of the most incredible performances I've ever seen is Mbedu from Underground Railroad,
Mm.
whose physicality in that limited series outstrips anything I've ever seen on screen. And it just like it got awards buzz, but like it's just like, if you care about physicality in acting, if you want to see actors using their entire presence, using carrying that, you know, if that is so important to you,
Yeah.
then
What are we
appreciate
doing?
it. Like,
Yeah.
recognize it, see it when it's happening,
Yeah.
and don't sorry, I'm going back to my awards, my awards reporter
Sure.
stuff. But yeah, it's like there are a bunch of people, there's plenty of great actors who aren't using their bodies
Yeah.
to give great performances. There are Daniel Day-Lewis's, and there are whatever, but there are plenty of people who are very good at standing up there and saying
Yeah.
the lines. Um, so it's just
Yeah.
like, if that's okay for them, it should be okay for I don't
For
I
everyone.
don't even know
Yeah.
what I'm arguing anymore.
I
No,
Sorry.
no,
just
I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just heard Libby talking through the wall, and I was like, "Who's Libby talking to?" So
Wow.
We're
that's where
so
I
That's like
am right
when
now.
we're
when
so
I send
tired of
myself an
it.
email and I'm like, oh, who emailed me?
Yeah,
I'm like, oh, it was
I'm
me.
very pretty, is the thing, which helps.
You should see the animated version of you. It's incredible. You're gonna
It's
be the
incredible.
prettiest bee.
I do think, though, to your point, Libby, that I mean, not again, not to belabor the point of awards, but it is just um it does feel as though we are sort of, as an industry, hindering ourselves, right, by not looking outside these very sort of rigid definitions of what a performance is, or so it's unfortunate. But I also think too that it's, for instance, Jason Lee in this film recorded his lines in 4 days.
Hmm.
And Greg T. Nelson recorded his lines over the span of 2 years.
Hmm.
Um, it I can understand someone looking at that, right, and being like, 4 days in a recording booth, and I'm supposed to think that this is that this performance is as worthy as however many months or however long it took, right? Like, it's this. And I'm not saying that's a fit. I'm playing devil's advocate more than anything, but like, sort of what I'm getting at, that like this weird sliding scale of effort versus performance.
People forget that it took Craig T. Nelson over 2 years because he had to get into Mr. Incredible shape,
He
then
did.
gain a bunch of weight, then
Yeah.
lose it all and
Yeah.
get back into
Yeah.
he like that took a
It
lot
was
of time.
crazy.
It was
It was
like
crazy.
Castaway, and it was for
Yeah.
a voice performance.
Yeah.
He
And see,
deserved.
that's the thing too, is like, I think, to me, when I hear that, and this is how jaded I am now, I'm like, okay, so Craig T. Nelson would hop by the recording studio on his commute home from wherever he was for 30 minutes
Mm-hmm.
every 3 weeks for
Yep.
2 years. And
No, I
like,
know. I'm with you.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas Jason Lee, like, it pretty clearly comes locked and loaded for Syndrome. You know what I mean? He just
Yes.
rolls
Yes.
up, and he's
Yeah.
just like, I could see how he was just like, all right, I'm here for a week. Like, I'll be. I'm guessing they had him scheduled to record over 2 weeks, and like he
Yep.
just was so locked in on this
Yeah.
character, he
They were like, we
just
got it. Yeah.
knocked it out. And like, why keep
Why keep it?
recording at that? So like, I've seen these awards bodies give plenty of awards to people who have 8 minutes of screen time, so they need to just
I
fuck
agree.
off with this
I
shit.
mean,
Like,
Judy Dench,
yeah,
Shakespeare in
like,
Love, God bless her. It's
yeah,
seven
like,
minutes, 8 minutes of screen time.
wow, we have spent a lot of time on this. I'm very
Well,
sorry.
I'll
Anyway, back to
also just
Incredibles.
on the Jason Lee of it, I'll just to very quickly say, Jack Black was offered the role of Syndrome. He turned it down. He wanted to do some rewrites. Brad Bird said, take a hike. And Jack Black has said since then that he greatly regrets not having done the film. And I could see what Jack Black would have done with this. You know what I mean? Like, it makes sense. But Jack Black in 2004 was, perhaps a slightly different animal than he is today. And who knows? But Jason Lee is great.
I think,
Yeah.
yeah, I think Jack Black is a similar manic energy, but not nearly. I don't think he would have had the. I don't see him launching nukes at children. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know if he can get there with his best performance, just because he is that, he is a giant panda bear. He is, I
Yes.
don't know that I've ever felt real menace for it, but I think Jason Lee would fuck up my children. Like,
Yeah, Jason Lee seems like a person who is a little unhinged in a way
yeah,
that Jack Black is not.
yeah,
Famously in Alvin and the Chipmunks Chipwrecked, he crash lands them on a deserted island because he's so tired of having the chipmunks around. He's like, get the
I
fuck out
get
of here.
it. I
Yeah.
get it. One other quick thing, Helen's use of radio protocol while flying is exceptionally accurate for a movie. In the director's commentary, Brad Pitt says that Holly Hunter insisted on learning the actual lingo and its meaning. And I wonder if that's because of Always.
Oh, Yes. How? No, it's because she was training to become a pilot at the time. I'm sure.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's. Yeah.
But I love that because like I was watching the scene this time and I'm just like, this feels awfully rigid in terms of like we don't need this, but it's great. I love it. It's great.
I loved it. Like I loved it because I think that it really sells the desperation, and it definitely establishes the fact that like why would she be able to fly this plane?
Yeah, no, for sure.
I think it makes perfect sense for the character, like in that is her going above and beyond and being like, how the fuck would I be if I didn't know what the codes were? How am I up there flying this super jet? Like,
Yeah,
I don't have mental capacity I can stretch. Like, what
it's so good.
is this, my mind bending powers that I can fly this plane, or do I know what the fuck I'm doing?
One other little quick piece of trivia on the Holly Hunter Helen of it all. The scene where Helen and Bob argue on the roof about what route to take is a nod to broadcast news and the fact that Jane would constantly tell cab drivers which route to take in DC.
This is why I can never hate Brad Bird. He so clearly just like loves all the right things. He's just like,
Right?
you know.
I think that's wonderful. I do think just to sort of um just very quickly jumping through the plot, I do think that you guys are absolutely right that the first sort of half hour of the movie, as they sort of set the stage, I did find myself kind of being like, okay, this is cute, but like, is there more? Like, I like the talking head stuff up top of like the interview footage is funny. I laughed at him, Mr. Incredible, leaning out of focus towards the camera and the woman saying, "Don't get up, we're not finished." Like there is something, very kind of fun and playful about it. But I would argue until they're trapped, quote unquote, in their domestic life, that sort of opening sequence felt a little rote to me. It felt a little bit like I feel like I've seen this stuff before. It didn't really start to click for me until we start to see Mr. Incredible's the temptation of doing, cases and whatnot.
I love their banter
Sure.
when Helen and Bob are like bump into each other in the crime fight. Like that's such a fun sequence. It is a little rote, and it is a little bit of that like weird American exceptionalist retro whatever, but you you kind of need it for everything else to work. And it
No,
kind
totally.
of needs, I've been thinking about this because I got some notes on a thing, and someone was like some characters need to be caricatures for a thing to work, basically. And I was thinking about sometimes you need a scene that does exactly what you expect so you can subvert things later. And it's like the opening of this is not Pixar's most exciting,
No.
engaging opening. Not in the way that like Monsters Inc. is like teaching you 17 different things
Yeah.
about how the
Yep.
world's going to work. This is just like, here's a pretty good superhero caper, but you need it for everything else to hit in the way that it does.
But
I
it does
also
feel, as you said, a little like we're going through the motions. But I know what you're
I also think,
saying.
we've been beaten down by 2 decades of superhero
Yes, correct.
stuff. And I think like when I first saw this, I wasn't as, I hadn't spent days probably of my life watching superhero films. I wasn't as entrenched
Yeah.
in the world and what those storytelling choices were. So I don't know if I don't know if that I would have bumped at that. I think probably at the time that sort of like faux documentary style probably really, I thought that was really clever,
For
and
sure.
yeah, but now it's like okay. Yep,
It's
Libby,
yeah, it
got it.
yeah.
Yeah.
you've probably spent a day of your life just watching Avengers Endgame, like, which is fine. It's great. It's a great, very fun film, but you've seen that a bunch of times, and it's
Good
three
movie.
hours long.
Do you know what the Avengers doesn't have though? A character named Bomb Voyage.
This is true. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, come on. He's a mime.
Yeah.
That's
He's a
so good. I'd
mime.
completely forgotten. I'd completely forgotten about him until he showed up. And I was just like, God, this is such a good movie.
A
I
thing
mean, Bomb Voyage is fucking great.
a thing that I think people forget about where superhero movies were in 2004 is
Yeah.
this and Spider-Man 2 came out both that year, both sort of acclaimed as like these are among the best films of the year. Got lots of top 10 notices. And they both are movies that superhero cinema has sort of like taken all the wrong lessons from.
Yep.
Like Spider-Man is so much about these characters, this relationship. Like, will they be able to make it work? Like, it's a story about like a marriage in crisis on the supervillain side. It's such a like stark, small human story, and this is also that. And it seems like everyone saw these movies and saw the fun superhero battles in this movie and the train sequence in Spider-Man and was like, well, that's what we got to do. That's what the people, and didn't understand that like what is built atop them, what is giving them the foundation is these like human relationships and character moments that make everything really, really sing.
It weirdly took them like 10 to 15 years to figure that out, and then they tried to graft it on to all of the superhero franchises that they already like had, like, oh yeah, now I'm gonna be really invested in Pepper and
It's
Iron Man because
it's quite depressing because I do feel like weirdly what's going on too, or percolating anyway, because the next year we're going to get Batman Begins, right? With no 5. And that's, some people took lessons from that movie, right? Obviously Iron Man to some degree is grafting off of Batman Begins, but it does feel as though there was a path that was laid in front of us, and we just took all the wrong lessons, as you said, Emily. Even when in our face we're seeing parallel Chris Nolan's sort of version of this going on, and yet we're still kind of going with this bombastic kind of superhero shit.
I saw the James Gunn Superman a couple times over the summer, and I saw it with pretty full theaters both times. And every time that movie opens with some big superhero action, and every time I could kind of feel the audience being like, okay, this is interesting. And then the next beat is he's at work, we meet Lois, and then they're arguing about their relationship and having that interview. It's a scene that's fully 8 minutes long. It's a very long scene in a movie like this. And that's every time I felt the audience lock into the movie in that scene, because they were like, oh, these actors have chemistry.
They're talking.
These characters have a real thing they're fighting about. Yeah. And this scene is setting the dramatic stakes for both characters across the rest of the movie. And like, that's a thing that this movie has that Spider-Man 2 had that like superhero movies kind of forgot about. The Nolan Batmans, I love them all, but they are not particularly character driven in the way they are ideas driven.
All of
like
them.
they have good characters, but yeah.
All of them.
I do like Dark Knight Rises. I would not say I love it. I did. That's true. It's
Snap.
7 out of 5 stars, and I can't.
Oof. I think that it's just it's so interesting.
I actually forgot that movie existed.
So. This is exactly what you have to understand why I had to call you out, right?
Because I was just not very good.
I will say this. Anne Hathaway is wonderful.
She's great. She's a standout in that movie, but the movie's bad. I do think, though, it is interesting that just how we kind of only had 2 modes, and I would argue we still kind of only have 2 modes, which is like Marvel or gritty. Mm-hmm. It kind of feels like that's it. And I think that unfortunately it creates this scenario where like Superman pops for what it's worth because people are like, this is fun and this is popcorn, but it's got ideas and it's got a heart and this is working. And it's frustrating because you watch this film, you watch The Incredibles, and you're like, there are ideas in this movie. There's no shortage of ideas in this film, or characters, or jokes, or action. Like, it's all there. It's just this idea that Hollywood believes that it's too hard to do all of that stuff. So let's just kind of pick one lane, and what's the easiest path, the least path of resistance. I don't know. I think that this movie also, it's got a lot of kind of Mission Impossible in it mixed into it as well, I would say. So it isn't a surprise to see Brad Bird do a Mission Impossible movie.
It's very 60s spy thriller.
Yeah, yeah.
throughout, like especially the Giacchino score. It is wild. This is his first movie score. You're
It's
just
crazy.
it's just
It's
he's
crazy.
locked and loaded.
It's pretty insane. Yeah, I mean, I really do feel like there's also stuff. Speaking of just how impressive the animation is in this film at times, the lushness of the vegetation on the island, like just all the island stuff, is really pretty mind-boggling to look at, and just sort of the way that they build worlds, like there's so many worlds going on inside this movie. It's pretty unreal to look at. We talked to Edna before.
Oh,
What was
sorry.
that?
I will say that when they were arguing about which exit to take, I was like, that's downtown.
Yeah,
That's downtown LA. That's 110%
oh,
downtown
for sure,
LA.
for sure, for sure.
Traction, seventh. Like we
It's
always take seventh. Like that's like literally how we get to our apartment. I was like, yeah.
that's so funny.
Yeah. And Emily's like,
We
shut up, the baby's sleeping, you fucking idiot.
Don't tell everyone where we live, Libby. We
Yeah,
live in.
like they're
don't
gonna take
forget-
seventh
yeah.
and we'll be right there.
they'll get there. They'll find you.
There's a big arrow that says Emily and Libby's house. You forget about that.
Well, that's a mistake.
You
You guys should
put
take that down.
there.
Yeah, what I mean, seriously, Emily. We talked about
We
Edna
live in
before,
Los Angeles.
but Edna's speech about the capes is great. No
Mhm.
capes. Is wonderful. There's a lot of like visual stuff that they do in this. I love those big black globs that they fire at Mr. Incredible that like stop, like just really interesting visceral visual things that I think are really, really cool. Um, Obviously like the Jack reveal of like Jack being like a big question mark until the end is incredible. I remember seeing that in theaters and dying. Him turning into a devil monster creature, him turning into just steel. Like at one point, he just turns into metal. I mean, it is an amazing moment.
This is
The
like
weird thing is,
Go ahead.
and what I didn't realize until I was a parent, is like how many concentrated parent fears are in that, because like
Yeah.
if you are, no one wants a dumb kid. There, I said it.
Oh.
Ernie, please edit it out. But like
Yeah.
you're just like, there's this low key, you want, and everyone thinks their kid is the most fantastic person. So I imagine like if you are a family of superheroes,
Yeah.
if you are a family of superheroes and you have a normie, you're just kind of like, we love him anyway.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's great.
Yeah.
Like, because I don't know how superpowers transfer. I don't know if that's just like that is a genetic thing, or if that is, exposure to power lines, or what's happening there. But there's that. But then there's also like there's the syndrome being like, well, I'm stealing your son. Like that's fine. You got me, but I'm taking your baby. And I'm just like Helen being like, throw me. It's like
it's
very real.
incredible.
And also our child has absolutely turned into a demon.
Oh yeah.
That is
not great.
That a reason that joke works is because the whole movie's been priming you for it.
Yes.
Which is
Yes.
basically you're wondering if it's going to happen, but also Mr. Incredible is this like his power is based in he's this rock solid like guy who like has to stand up and fight against, so he's a dad. And Elastigirl is, I have to stretch every which direction. I'm like doing everything I can to keep my family provided for and safe, so she's a mom. Violet is like, it feels invisible, doesn't entirely know how to talk to people, feels like she's repelling them. She's a teenage girl. Dash runs really fast and has a hyperactivity disorder of some kind.
Yeah.
So like he is a tween boy. So you are primed for what is a baby superpower? A baby superpower is it can turn into anything at any moment.
Yeah.
And it might be like fire, or it could be a demon, or it might be the cutest kid ever. But like they genuinely can like lose all of their bones in a single moment and then turn into a rock the next. Yeah.
Yeah, like absolutely. When our child was small, like they would do that. She would do that thing where she just like went entirely limp, and it was just like, this baby ain't got no bones. Like she just like boneless baby. You're trying to put him in a onesie, and it's just like silly putty. You're like jamming shit in there, and the second you bend it the wrong way, it's gonna snap. And then you got to be like, no, I swear to God, she didn't have these bones when I was trying to put her pajamas on, and then she grew them suddenly, and it was an accident.
It's amazing.
Do not
I
call
do think that
CPS on me.
all those things that you just mentioned, Emily, of like how they match up, how the powers match up to what's going on in their lives is obviously um really brilliant. There's a moment with Violet after they crash and they're in the cave and the mom says like, you need to stay here, Violet, you're in charge. And then they're outside the cave for a moment, and basically Helen's saying, you know, how important it is that she figure out her power and figure out her strength and what have you. And there's this shot that just stays on Violet for a good like 10-15 seconds, just standing outside the cave as she puts on the mask. You can see her kind of like try to steal her spine a little bit, and it just fucking killed me. I was just like, those are those touches, those little nuances that just really make this thing just so special.
It's so smart about the way that Violet does not want to be seen with her mother, but also wants to be her mom. And like, that's the person.
So
and you also see the piece of her that someday will be like Helen, you know, that in 20 years, she's going to be that kind of person. And she's good because she's been raised by that woman. And it's like, it is part of why I think casting Sarah Vowell is brilliant, because Sarah Vowell also has a voice that sounds like nobody else. Correct. And so like they kind of like, you kind of feel like, well,
Very
those voices
true.
sound nothing alike, but they're clearly related,
So
you know?
exactly alike.
Yeah.
But yeah, and one of my favorite things about this movie is when Helen apologizes to Violet. Like, that wasn't fair. Like, it wasn't fair of me to ask you to save all of our lives when I haven't let you. I've actively encouraged you not to use your powers this entire time. Like, I put you in an unwinnable situation, and I am sorry. While also kind of in the next moment being like, but I know you can do this. Like, I know you have this in you. I wasn't wrong to know you could do it, but I was wrong in expecting you to do it on command like a dog. Like
in that moment,
when I had not set you up for that success. But because now that we have a chance to talk about it, I know you can do this, and I know you can protect your brother, and I know you can protect this family.
Sure.
And I'm trusting you to do that. Like, I think that is a God level parenting moment, is to be able to be in fear that you're losing your family and also recognize that you made a mistake, try to rectify that mistake.
Yeah.
And also, I just, good parents aren't good parents all the time, but I think they're good parents when it matters, which is why the Bluey finale upsets me so much, because the Chili and Bandit are actually bad parents in a moment that matters. And while it
all comes back to Bluey, doesn't it?
I mean, a little bit. I think about this moment all the time. But yeah, like I think it's such an important moment that I don't think is in most other versions of this movie, other people trying to make this movie. And it really struck me this time how much that moment meant to me, because it's very easy to, I think Emily was talking earlier about the how everyone in this film has a different relationship with each other, and how that's important, and how that builds out the world. But like, yeah, I think that moment really underlines the Helen and Violet's relationship. And yeah,
I also think the dash chase sequence so perfectly illustrates Dash, right? Like, it's the opposite in terms of it's this like visceral external thing, but that whole sequence is so phenomenally well done. It's like a cross between the speeders from Return of the Jedi and Looney Tunes. Like, the whole thing has this like chaotic, crazy energy, but it looks so fucking cool, and it's so well done. And part of it is Dash is just getting such a kick out of getting to be in such a cool sequence, right? Like, he gets to be a part of this thing. And it also shows how smart he is, right? Like, he's running on water, and the way that he ends that sequence is by falling into the water so the two planes like he's just as smart as his parents, and he has this gift. He's just obviously a hyperactive child. Like when you have the end of him finally getting to be in track and they're like, too fast, slow down. You can take second. Like it's just, it does have that sort of energy of like when you have a special kid, but that kid's also at 11 all the time.
Well, and
Which we
also
know
it
about.
is 11. It is 11 all the time. So you make this mistake, I think, and I think that is what we saw in the Helen scene too, is you make this mistake of like, I know you're special and
Yeah.
I know you are preternaturally gifted at certain things. And so in my mind, you exist as someone older than you are, but also you're 12
Yeah.
and I forget
Yeah.
that. And it's easy for me to forget that. And
Totally.
that is what I love. You're absolutely right. That chase scene is amazing. He's such incredible situational awareness, like his parents do. And I think that was why that's why it was invaluable for Helen to tell Dad, run fast,
Yeah.
but also make it very clear to them that they'll die. So like run fast, have fun, understand the seriousness of the situation and why it's important for you to run fast, because this isn't a race at the track meet. This is, this is your life.
Totally. And even Dash being the one who's like kicking,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
she
yeah,
turns
yeah, yeah.
into a boat to get them to the island, and she's like, what a little trooper, my little trooper. Like it's knowing where your kids' strengths and weaknesses are and knowing when to push and when to hold them close. It is really really masterfully done in this. Like you don't see there are lots of movies, lots of animated movies certainly, about families that have powers of some sort or whatever the case might be, and I feel like so many of them dig a little bit beneath the surface, whereas this movie really does the deep dive and really takes the time to make them such rich characters.
Bill, I think you and Elastigirl would be a great couple.
Oh, thanks.
I think you
I
too.
have an Elastigirl on my and I have a Violet on my desk over here.
That's sweet. That's sweet.
Um, but I love, near the end of the film, they're on the island. They have that big moment where Bob and Helen both destroy two ships and then turn to each other and say, I love you. Like just that it's just as on the nose as that might be, it's great. And then the moment when all four of them take a hero pose and you're just like, this fucking rules, and I want this family to just kill it. It is just, you've been waiting for this.
Yeah.
Like that, I would argue, is the payoff. That one shot, which I would argue lasts a fraction of a second, is just goosebumps inducing. We were just
it was as someone who was working in the press at that time, that was the still everybody used, because it's such an iconic image. It's just like, if your review had that image on it,
Avengers owe so much to that shot, like
oh
110%.
Yeah.
Like
for sure.
Yeah, that's
and even so much they kind of replayed at the very, very end, right? Which is that they're all putting on their masks and they're all like, it's so
to just sort of like circle back to Brad Bird, Randy, and Objectivist. I think when I wrote an explainer for Vox about Brad Bird in 2018 when Incredibles 2 came out, and whether he's an objectivist, basically. I had asked him that point blank, and he was like, well, people read stuff into the movies. I don't know if it's there. And I totally believe that's like the thing he thinks, but I went and read like all the interviews he'd given. I went and read a bunch of like biographies of him or whatever. And the thing about Brad Bird that I think people often forget is when this movie came out, he was 47. He was old in terms of Hollywood careers.
Yes.
He had, in terms of Hollywood careers,
seriously,
had spent his 20s and most of his 30s feeling unappreciated and feeling like he was one of the great animators of his generation and nobody recognized it. He had like friends who did because they kept giving him work. And he's vital to the visual look of The Simpsons, which is a beautiful show visually. He's there for the first 8 seasons, I think. And he never got the credit for it that the writers did or whatever. And that always sort of rankled him. He left Disney because he felt like Disney was like not open to new ideas. He'd spent his whole life like butting his head against this idea of I'm a genius and nobody sees it. Iron Giant comes out, is a huge flop. I think when he's talking about this thing that some people are more special than other people or whatever that comes up in all his movies, he's really talking about himself. He's really being like, I'm the greatest that's ever lived, and everyone needs to realize that. But because he's not making these movies until he's in his 40s, when you've gained some perspective about the world, he also has this leavening element of, oh yeah, I there are things about me that make it harder for me to like be as good as I could be, and they're balanced out by my wife, by my kids. And this movie's really about that. And Ratatouille is even more about like, yeah, I have this special gift that I can do that makes me really good at this one thing, but I can't do everything. These people can do this, these people. So it's like, it is objectivism, but it's in a communitarian context, which are normally two things that run in opposite directions. But Brad Bird kind of weds them in a way I find really interesting. And I think the thing that makes that objectivism pop out more is also the thing that makes him temperate, which is he didn't start making movies until he was 42. And like that is a really unusual career trajectory in Hollywood. So I think he's
That's interesting.
all of that stuff is in his movies. And I also think it's just him talking about himself, his greatest desires, but also like his greatest fears about like who he thinks he is. And if he's, if he ever notices the other people in his life, because he's so like pursuing this. And I think that's why Incredibles is for me his best film, because it's like it is all of that in one movie.
It certainly feels like, and I don't say this to sound limiting to Brad Bird in any way, but it does feel like this is everything I've ever wanted to put in a movie, right? Like I
Yeah.
don't know that I'm going to get another shot like this, so this is everything. And I'm going
Yeah.
to give it my all, and it's going to be the best thing I can possibly make. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I think to your point, Emily, it's why I think I really like Ratatouille, but as we'll talk about in our episode, that was a project he inherited from somebody else. And Incredibles 2 was a bit of a reaction to the less than stellar Tomorrowland. So like there, it is interesting to kind of look at his career and be like, I'm curious to see what he does next. I mean, it's been a while. Like,
Well, I mean, his when he makes Ray Gun, which is coming out this year, apparently.
is it?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
coming out on Netflix this summer.
Okay.
We're all going to learn it was actually a Ronald Reagan biopic, and we're all going to be like,
Oh,
"Oh,
that's exciting.
he was Republican all along." No, no, it's who knows? Who
I mean,
knows?
I think that Brad Bird is a fascinating guy. I think that he hasn't made that many movies. I hear he's a tough guy to work for.
He's a tough guy to interview. Like
Well, there you go.
he was kind. He was not like rude. He just like didn't really give answers. He was just kind of like, yeah, well,
Cool.
some people say that, but I just make my movies. And I was like, thanks, thanks
Super
for your
helpful. The great
yeah,
interview.
yeah.
Perfect
One of the
cult.
things that I do love about the end of this film is when Bob says to Helen, "I'm not strong enough to lose you again,"
Mhm.
and that's ultimately, the strongest man in the world doesn't have the strength to lose what's most important to him. Is I would argue pays off Mr. Incredible, which is a character that can feel a little one notey through most of the movie, until he thinks his family is dead, in which case he just becomes this shell of a human ready to just murder people. But yeah, I think it's a wonderful sort of a recognition. And what Helen says to him is, "You're not going to lose me if we do this together," right? This idea that like we are powerful as a united front, um, is really lovely stuff. We obviously mentioned the voicemail messages. They get back to the house. You've got Syndrome stealing Jack and that being his undoing. It is You've got Mr. Incredible throwing Mrs. Incredible into to catch Jack. All that sort of stuff is wonderful. The cape that kills Syndrome. It all really is just kind of every perfect thing culminating into this, and then you get the Underminer.
I remember
I might live beneath you, but there's nothing beneath me.
I remember seeing this in 2004, and just being so bummed that Ratzenberger wasn't in it, because
Yeah.
he, he's in all the and then
Yeah.
at the very end, there he is.
It's perfect. And by the way, like, Incredibles 2 starts with the Underminer. Like, to their credit, they just go right at, like, it is wonderful that they are very much in concert with one another. They're speaking to each other, which I do think is pretty rare in a sequel, especially one that took as long as this did between films. But because what, 20, is that we said 2018? Is that the Incredibles 2?
2018, and Incredibles 3 is coming out in 2028, which is written by Brad Bird, but not directed by him. Correct. It's directed by the guy who made The Good Dinosaur and Elemental. Good luck. Good luck, everybody.
I think Brad's producing it, though, right?
Producing, and he wrote it. It just like they wanted it out at a time when he was working on Ray Gun. So, I think one of the things I'm going to find interesting about Ray Gun is that Brad Bird is clearly influenced by pop culture stuff that nobody cares about anymore, and so like are people going to still be into this pulp pastiche in a way that like Incredibles gets grandfathered in because it was on the bleeding edge of the superhero thing? I'm not sure they are, but we'll find out. It's on Netflix, so we'll never know if anybody watched it. So
okay, so apparently, Bird returned to revive his long dormant project Ray Gun at Warner Brothers feature animation before he was approached by John Lasseter to produce it for Skydance in 2022. It was announced that Brad had signed a deal with Skydance the previous year and had reassembled frequent collaborators from his previous films. According to Hollywood Reporter, presumptive production costs are estimated at $150 million. This resulted in Skydance leaving its distribution deal with Apple TV, in which they later partnered with Netflix. Does not sound great.
It sounds like the blankest of blank checks, and obviously, like, the John Lasseter of it all is. I'm making a stern face. I'm making a Paddington hard stare. I brought up John Ratzenberger, and I found an interview with him where he's like, he doesn't do Pixar movies outside of sequels anymore because he feels bad about how they treated John Lasseter. And I'm like, buddy,
are you serious?
He's like, now they're forcing politics into everything. I'm like, buddy, my dude.
So I have a question for you. I'm looking at Ray Gun right now, which is described as an upcoming American animated neo-noir science fiction action film directed by Brad Bird, set to be released on Netflix this year, as you mentioned. It follows Raymond Gunn, the last human private detective in a futuristic world inhabited by humans and aliens. It stars John Ratzenberger, so I believe perhaps he is the titular Raymond Gunn.
Playing Ray Gunn.
I hope so.
Gunn. Yeah.
I'm a little worried about this, Emily. I got to be honest with you. This is not. It's not I don't know about this.
It is. Here's the thing about it. It is the movie he's been trying to make his whole life.
Sure.
And often those are not good.
Well, because like for the longest time he was trying to get that the San Francisco earthquake movie, right? Like that was like the big San Francisco earthquake film that he wanted to make, and that was going to be his follow-up to Ghost Protocol.
Yeah,
he wanted to use his blank check to do that. And that didn't happen. Then obviously Tomorrowland happens. And I can't help but feel like there's a whiff of like Fincher-esqueness to him of like, my things are really expensive and I'm not going to listen to a fucking word you tell me.
The earthquake movie, I think, is actually a great idea. I think somebody should make a movie about the San Francisco earthquake, and why not him?
Why not him?
I believe he, like, obviously Pixar was based in the San Francisco area, so he knows it well.
Makes sense. Yeah.
But yeah, Ray Gun, I'm so sad that David Lynch died, but I'm so happy he died before he could make Ronnie Rocket, because I think that just would have been, like, I've read that script. It's
not great.
I do love that apparently the Metropolis the Metropolis appreciator has logged off as Emily's like, sometimes these dream projects are not what they
Megalopolis. Listen, the only good review of Megalopolis, and I've read many great reviews, but the best review is I saw that movie. I sat next to a man who kept falling asleep, and he woke up with 10 minutes to go, and he looked at the screen. I don't remember what was happening, and he said, "What now?" And he stood up and left. And I'm not like a defender of that film, but I appreciate that I saw it. Like I liked like what it was going for.
Yeah.
And it's such a mess.
I was joking. You were not.
No, she's not going anywhere. I wouldn't. I mean, have you watched Megadoc yet?
No, I haven't. I
That's
haven't.
the documentary about the making of
Yeah.
Megalopolis.
Yeah, I need to. I need to.
Yeah, I got to watch it too. Let's rate this film. This movie came out in 2004. I liked it quite a bit. Probably would have given it like an 87 back then. I'd say now I'm probably at like a 90. I my issues with, somewhat dated animation aside, and the beginning being a little bit rote, by the end I was just so fucking like, it had me in the palm of its hand, that I was just like, Holly Hunter's given the greatest voice performance ever. um you know she can say that's my girl any day of the week and just bring tears out of me. So like, I'm just like, I'm in. um so yeah, that's where I'm at. What about you, Libby? Where were you in '04 and where are you now?
Oh, God,
I know, I know.
I'm sure in '04 I was like
Right.
96 something. Who
Mm-hmm.
knows? And now I'm a little lower. I'm probably closer to like probably a 90, I think.
Yeah.
I was distracted this time just
Sure.
by life, and so
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I wasn't quite locked in by the end, but I really liked it. I'm worried that I'm more of an 85, thinking it deserves a 90. And I'm
I might be there too,
yeah.
if I'm being honest,
So
but
I
yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
Tie break.
Yeah. What about you, Emily? Where are you at? Where were you in '04? Where are you now?
In '04, I want to say this was really high on my list of the best movies of the year. I think it was in my top 5. I'm trying to think of what would have been above it. Eternal Sunshine, I know for sure was above it, and then I'm not sure what else. Like
Sure.
I was that high on it. I was probably like 96, 97. And I'm still there, baby. I think this movie's great. I think this movie is like
God.
I think the thing about it is the
Yeah.
stuff about it I struggle with right now, especially like the philosophical themes,
Sure.
is makes it a richer text for me. Like I enjoy wrestling with them, and I enjoy the degree to which this movie seems like it's about like it should be Elon Musk's favorite movie, but also
Sure.
like just reads him for filth perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
Like it is such a its presentation of themes I find incredibly hard to deal with is so nuanced and complex that even if I'm sure Brad Bird and I would disagree on like 700 different things, I still would be like interested having a conversation with him about it. I think this
Sure.
is a yeah, I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna say 97 because evidently I just reach for the number 7
Love
all
that.
the time.
Love
So
that.
yeah,
I do too. I'm really happy about that. Like I think I think my rating is probably depressed because of depression. So
Sure.
I'm very
Sure.
happy that you are
Sure.
you were very clear-eyed about this. But we cannot finish this without talking about one of my favorite scenes in all of film,
Please.
which is in this film,
Okay.
which is Frozone and Honey's exchange. Which
Where's
my
my
super suit?
super
where
suit?
woman? It makes me
What?
cackle. Where is my super suit?
Yeah.
Oh no.
What do you need it for?
It's so like Samuel L. Jackson obviously was a big star when this movie came out, but he wasn't
Sure.
yet like such a ubiquitous figure in genre
Yeah.
film. You know, he'd done the Star Wars prequels, obviously, but yeah, and this movie just like he's in what's effectively a cameo, but he's so good, and there's so much more of him in 2, which I think is wonderful. I hope there's even more of him in 3. I would love a Frozone spinoff. Why not just make that? You know?
Yeah. Do that. Yeah. It's. There's not enough Frozone in this, but that scene almost makes up for it, right? Because
Yeah,
it's so fucking good.
yeah.
It's just.
I am your wife. I'm the greater good you're ever gonna get.
It's wonderful. What's not wonderful is Cars, which we'll be talking about next week with Miles
Here's the
McNutt.
thing, Phil. The reason we started Cars is because Emily's like, I gotta watch this. Hit the baby, I gotta watch this.
I know.
And the baby was like, no thanks.
I genuinely was like, Margot, oh,
Yeah.
bleep that, please. I genuinely was like, child,
Child.
do you want to watch a movie about talking cars? And she was like,
Yep.
yes, talking cars. She was like, that sounds great. And then we started it, and she was like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah, I would.
She legitimately. So Lightning gets on the
Yep,
trailer, gets on old fascist rats, to go to California,
yeah.
and she's like, "It's over now," and I was like, you know what? It is.
It's just beginning, babe.
It is
You
over.
don't know
For
it.
you, for me, it's over. For your mother who makes poor choices,
It's over now. That sounds great.
Then we watched Frozen, which is her
Oh,
favorite.
sure.
So,
That's.
yeah.
I mean, listen, I get it. Frozen's great. Cars is long,
sure is.
and it's listen. It's gonna be a great episode. Miles McNutt planted his flag in Cars many many moons ago, so I'm excited to hear his take on it.
God bless
Um,
that man.
and it's we're gonna talk about lightning. We're gonna ka-chow all the way to Radiator Springs.
Ciao.
It's like Bazinga.
It definitely is. We were so
It's brutal.
scared. We were so scared she was going to be a Cars kid, and
Well, you don't have to worry about that. You got lucky. You got a good one.
yeah,
Yeah,
we would have loved her. We would have loved little Jack Jack.
sure. I
Either
think
way.
it's a movie very much for boys too, which is kind of why it sucks. It's one of the reasons why it sucks.
The odd thing about it is that she might come to us in 6 months and be like, "Can we finish the Cars movie?"
Oh, I'd like to know what happens to Lightning. Wait, is she gonna want to watch Cars 2 where they become spies for some fucking unknown reason?
I was posting about this journey on Blue Sky, and every parent I know who has kids slightly older than her was like, "Our kids got into Cars too, so just thank God that didn't happen." I like Frozen. I think Frozen has a lot of problems with its story. It's not a movie that stands up to watching 5 times a week, but my God, I'm glad that we're into that instead of Cars. So
I think the highs in Frozen are high enough that I have a much higher tolerance
Sure.
for
Elsa
it.
puts on the best fucking dress when she sings "Let It Go." She
I
just
can't deal with it. I can't deal
she
with
does.
it.
It's a great dress.
The baby goes to like bail before that because she's all in on Anna, and I'm like, we're gonna get through Let It
Go. You're gonna sit and watch this.
You can go. You have a choice.
I don't know why she's all in on Anna when, like me, she has huge Elsa energy. But you know what?
That's a conversation for another day.
Yeah.
Phil is desperately trying to end this podcast.
Well, no, I'm not desperately
Phil,
trying
did
to
you
end
know we have
anything.
a baby?
I heard. Libby, is there anything you want to plug? Like Yellow Jackets or something? I don't know.
No.
Okay.
I would have to finish the script to plug something.
Fair point.
I'm
Yes.
not ready for that right now.
Listen. You can tell people to go watch it. They can watch Yellow Jackets.
They can watch Yellow Jackets. They should watch it.
Yeah.
It's on
You can
Paramount
watch
Plus. They
Yellow
can watch it whenever
Jackets.
they want.
I'm
They can
sure
watch it
you
on Netflix too. They can watch 2
Mhm.
seasons, I think, on Netflix.
Yeah, they can't watch
Not
the
any of our
fifth season on
episodes,
Netflix.
Soon enough, though, I'm
no.
sure. I mean,
I'm
I don't know.
hoping like we could
Yeah, I'm
use
sure.
that. We could use that bump.
Little bump. Yeah.
Little bump, bumpity bump. Yeah. I write with my dumb wife on Yellow Jackets.
But pretty wife.
You can see that
Dumb but pretty.
on the line places. That's all I
This
got.
was lovely, Libby. I love having you on. Your cameo in our Kiss Kiss Bang Bang episode was a highlight that people on our Patreon have highlighted how much they loved that. So there's that.
Yeah.
Love having you on. I know that you love doing this.
I have to ask you about something.
Oh no.
Once
Is this an on mic question or an off mic
An
question?
off mic question. A couple off
Okay.
mic questions actually. But yeah,
Okay, great.
thank you.
So
Thank you
let's
so much
stop
for having
promoting.
me. It's
Of
almost
course.
always so much more fun than I'm afraid it's going to be in my head.
Oh, it's always a joy to have you on. Truly, I'm not just saying that because you're married to my co-host, but truly, you're the best.